So it's been, and speaking of bringing on talent, like when this whole thing was going down, I was like, oh, how about we get a little Mike Sarraille at Echelon front? Because guess what? That's what we did. Yeah, bring the band back together, and that's why it's been awesome. And if anyone that's come to the muster, Mike's putting on a great talk about leadership inside the muster. Freaking everyone loved it, I myself included, and going out working with companies again. Now we just have someone else on the team that can get out there, that understands leadership, that sees solutions. We've been bringing you out on a bunch of stuff now, so you see other companies and you're starting to take even what you learned in school, put that on top of the practical applications that we see now. The way, so you see it everywhere you look. So that's another benefit. So that's where you're at now.
Talk about getting out. You talk about what gets you out of the bed in the morning. And every company is like, do you love what you do? I'm like, the fact that Jocko, Leif, myself, JP, Dave, Flynn are on a phone call talking about leadership. I'm like, there's nothing that gets us out of the bed more than that. Like, we love to solve these problems because we've seen them before. Yeah. And people often say like, well, how are the SEALs like synonymous with business? I'm like, you just said it. You're a unit. You're a company. You're dealing with people. Yeah. We deal with the same issues. Yeah. And it has been great. I mean, how long have I been on now? 3 months?
Yeah, something
and
like
I
that.
just love it. And my fiance sees a different person because for the listeners, I took a high-level job in higher education, executive director of veteran services for the Texas A&M system. And it just, even though the work was rewarding, it just wasn't the same as being part of the Echelon front. And like Jordan has seen, she's like, you're actually like happy to get out of bed in the morning now. I'm like, yeah. I'm with the boys.
Yeah. That makes a big difference. And like you said, you can't even shut us up. Like we'll have we got this thing called the tank where we'll get together and talk about like a leader. Like if we're working with 3 companies and there'll be leadership issues at each one of the companies, and so we'll talk about the leadership issue and then how that problem should be approached. And these calls that are scheduled for an hour, we'll end up on the phone for 2.5 hours, or we'll end up in the tank for 3 hours sitting there going by. And because we're learning from it, we're also learning how we can apply what we're talking about. It's just an awesome. It's awesome to be part of the organization and like you said, to be with people that are just into it. And
the funny thing is, having gotten my MBA, the one thing that is not addressed in any MBA program is leadership.
Yeah.
And they know it. And right now you're seeing a lot of MBA programs set up or stand up centers of leadership within their MBA programs. Yep. And, I've had some great discussions. I mean, great professors there. And so, strong leaders because they were private sector leaders before they came back and spoke. But, you can – and they turn out highly successful business practitioners. But at the end of the day, like, it's not a recipe for leadership training whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. That's why the business has gone so great, because there's no one that's offering what we're doing. There's people say, well, who's your competition? I'm like, we don't. I don't mean this in a negative way, but because I'm sure there's companies out there that are trying to do something, but there's no one that's saying, hey, this is what you do. This is how you lead. This is the way this will apply to your business. These are the principles that you can use and you can make happen. So yeah, we've been pretty lucky in the fact that we saw the correlations between these two things and saw them pretty clearly. So it's been good.
And I got to say, so the muster in DC 005 was my first muster. And naturally, these guys know me. I'm filled with hate. It's just sort of what drives me. One of my nicknames was Grumpy. But, I was definitely on board because it's you guys. You guys are my brothers. I'm like, yeah, dude, I want in, and I love discussing leadership. But naturally, I always have you hold back a little. I'm like, okay, let me see what this muster is about. And the fact that you guys are changing lives and people are coming up to me off of one speech, and I'm just like, dude, what is going on? Like, I gave one speech and like people were like, dude, that actually, your perspective has already changed my life. I'm like, well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm excited.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
I didn't realize the impact that it has.
No, it's an awesome thing to be a part of. And when I say a thing to be a part of, it's awesome to be at the muster with the people that are at the muster. Not just like, oh, we're a part of it and you're not. No, it's like everyone that's there is a part of it, and everyone that is contributing to the knowledge that's being distributed and increased. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yes,
It's a good time.
it is.